Hello, my YouTube friends. It is time for my February deck roundup, where I go through the tarot and oracle decks that I used in the month of February and decide what's going to stay and what's going to go. This is part of my experiment where I pull one tarot deck and one oracle deck a week, work with them for that week, and see which ones I like and which ones maybe somebody else would like better than I do. I'm going to go through all the oracle decks first, and then I'm going to go through the tarot decks. And I'm going to start with Alana Fairchild's Rumi Oracle. I love the artwork in this oracle. It is artwork by Rasuli. He also did the artwork for the Journey of Love Oracle, which I do like, that oracle. This one, as much as I love the artwork, the meanings, the book is such absolute rubbish that I can't use it. I used this deck for 3 days before I said I'm not messing with this one anymore. My pile of decks that I am letting go of is getting larger and larger. And so there are some that I think I will have there will be less interest in. There will be fewer people who are interested in the deck, and that the artwork in the deck is also quite good. So I might use it in some sort of, I don't know, some sort of art project or crafts project. I'm not an artist. Because the art in this deck is just so beautiful. But I cannot work with this deck. And to illustrate that example, this is the card that made me say, I'm not even going to try with this deck anymore. It's called Sacred Phoenix Heart. And I want to read a little bit out of the book. Love guides us through travails that seem improbable, if not impossible. It does not shy away from any challenge, from any cause. It cannot. It is just love's way. Love says to us, there is always another way. You are receiving this guidance now. Perhaps you are scratching your head quizzically, or are in deeper despair because you appear to have met a dead end, a frowning no, or a dismissive laugh upon your quest to bring love alive. So then, do you choose to believe in love, or in the death of sorts your heart faces? Your heart shall rally. I choose death because that is the portal to a new life. And so it is wise, you see, but you must be brave. To be burned in love, by love, for love, will involve endurance of pain, but it will also place it in context. It is the shorter pain that is not compounded by erroneous thinking. The pain comes and goes very quickly when you realize that love is simply, playfully smacking your wrist and saying, "Not that way, beloved. There are great pitfalls on that path. Come take this one, where there shall be wine and dancing." That sounds like my automatic writing. I would not publish my automatic writing in a book. That, I'm sorry, it's just nonsense to me. And again, everything I say is my opinion. I don't particularly like poetry, so I have a hard time following poetry to begin with. And when somebody tries to write prose that is supposed to be poetic, I kind of go, pfft. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the Rumi Oracle. The Rumi Oracle is not staying in my collection, other than if I decide to try to reuse the artwork in some fashion. Okay, the next oracle deck that I have is the Symbolon. And I have always loved the artwork in this one. I do think the artwork is gorgeous in this deck. This is not an oracle deck in the way that an Alana Fairchild deck is an oracle deck. It's not, you know, love and hug and kisses, or even, you know, affirmations or anything. It's kind of, I don't know, fortune tellery, or they have a spread in this book that you're supposed to use every single time that I really liked. Okay, here it is. The problem, the way through the problem, and the outcome. I really like that approach. And it has, for each card, it has a meaning in each position. So you see, you have the servitor, the meaning of the card in the spread, and the problem position, the way through the problem, and the outcome. So I really kind of like this deck, and it's also very plain speaking. When you see two people parting on a road, that's exactly what the card means. The only problem with this deck is that there are no titles or anything. So, and you notice there are no pictures in the book. It's really hard to know which card is which. So before I did anything, I took a Sharpie and put numbers on the cards. And then I also put numbers in the book that correspond so that I could find. This one's not going anywhere. It's probably not my favorite to read with. But I do, again, I love the artwork. I think it's gorgeous. And it is, again, very plain speaking. What you see is what it means. It's not hiding some deeper meaning behind some symbolism in the images. It does have this whole additional layer on it of astrological correspondences, but you don't have to use them to use the deck, and it says so in the book. And I didn't use them. I just used the images and the meanings in the book, and we got along pretty well. So I like this deck. I'm going to keep this one. And that's the symbol on. You can see I edged it in sort of a bronzy color. There's some decks I just have to, I feel like I have to edge because the front and the back, you know, now it sort of blends where, I don't know if you've noticed, but card edges aren't white. They're gray. And when you've got a gray card edge with a little white border around the front and back, that's okay. But when you've got a gray card edge with a bronze front and a bronze back, I feel like I have to edge it. Okay. And because I dismissed the Rumi Oracle so quickly this month, I actually ended up using 5 Oracle decks this month rather than 4. This is the Animal Allies Oracle cards. I like this deck. I don't need any more animal decks in my life, but I like this deck. I liked that the animals in it, but they seemed to be animals that, you know, like raccoons and scorpions, rabbits. They're animals that I'm familiar with. And there's a little piece of paper in this one that gives short meanings, and sometimes I used the piece of paper and sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I just went on the archetype of the animal, the way humans view that animal's behavior. And I really do like the artwork in this one. I think it's really beautiful. The cardstock is really nice. It's kind of like the Wild Unknown cardstock, where it's very matte, but for some reason it doesn't like to slide apart. So anyway, that is the Animal Allies Oracle. I like that one. That one is staying. Now I have a brand new addition to my collection, which you will see in another video that I'm going to do probably sometime next week. I'll do a haul video because I got my tax refund and I had a little bit of a splurge with part of my tax refund, and this is one of the decks that I got. This is the Strangelands Oracle. It's made by the same people who make the Tarot, and I had to have it basically because of the cicada card. Because I live in the South. We have a gazillion cicadas, and we do have the cicadas down here that sleep for like 12 to 17 years before they come out and start making their songs. But I really, really like this little deck. It's very pithy and very well balanced, and had lots of things that I could really identify with. So I do enjoy this one. This is the one I've been using this week. The little guidebook that comes with it is just really, really very nice. It has like 2 or 3 sentences for each card, and you know, most of the time I don't need. That's pretty self-explanatory. And how you read blues is kind of dependent on where you are today. So there you go. Strangelands Oracle cards. And the last Oracle deck I worked with in February was the Shamanic Medicine. I was a little reluctant to get this one. It didn't seem to have a clear vision from what I had seen on the internet, and I'll admit I'd watched walkthroughs like on fast forward so I could see the cards, but didn't hear too many people talking about the cards. But it seemed to take from so many different traditions that I was afraid it was going to lack some focus. But nope. I don't know if it's number one on my list of Oracle decks, but it's right up there at the top. The cards are beautiful. They have that lovely matte finish that we're also in love with right now. Again, this sometimes makes them hard to get apart. But this is just a beautiful deck. I love it so much. So yes, shamanic medicine, absolutely going nowhere, staying with me. Now we'll move into the tarot decks that I used in February. And we'll start with this one that I got in a trade from the lovely Thrifty Mystic. This is, and I hate to say it, Lori, this is a knockoff version of the Roaring Tarot. And that's okay. You know, if I had paid $35 for it, I'd probably be really upset, but I got it in a trade. And it is a lovely, upside down. I like it. And I think I'd like to have a legitimate copy of it because the cards are just so much bigger and you can see so much more. And from what I've seen on the internet since I've gotten it, we have lost a little bit of the detail around the edges, but it's still pretty good even so for a knockoff. It's based on the Thoth system, but that really wasn't a problem for me. It's not Aleister Crowley, so it was fine. I did also get the book, the US Games book that goes with it, which surprisingly wasn't as helpful as I thought. Particularly for the minor arcana, they just had like 1 or 2 sentences and a big picture of the card, which was nice to have the big picture of the card, but I would have liked to have more information on the minors and the court cards. Do love that Knight of Wands. So I like the Roaring deck. I would like to have a legitimate copy of it, but if you have looked for it anytime lately, you can't touch one for under a couple $100. So I'm going to have to live with this one for a while. I also used the Mystic Mondays deck, and this one, the Devil card was why I got the deck, and I love the Devil card. The Sun card is very nice. I like the Sun card a lot. The World, making it look like an atom, I thought that was very good, and I love the Death card. But there were a lot of cards in this deck that I thought were less than inspired. And let's start with the Seven of Wands. The first problem that I have with the Seven of Wands is that there are only 6 wands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Judgment card, I don't get that. I just don't get that. Is it a mirror? Is it a doorway? Just not quite sure. The Temperance card, balance, yes, but I would think that would make more sense as the Justice card in that particular instance than the Temperance card. We have nothing about blending. The Wheel of Fortune, it's just round. The Eight of Swords is very Rider-Waite-Smith. The Seven of Pentacles, very Rider-Waite-Smith. You've got a lot of stuff going on, and that's fine. You know, you make it like the Rider-Waite-Smith. I can get that. The Eight of Pentacles, fabulous. Then you've got the Ten of Cups, and the Ten of Pentacles, The Three of Wands. Not only do I not know what she was trying to say here, but I have a lake near my house that has 3 towers near the dam. And that, of course, as soon as I see this Three of Wands, I think of that spot in that lake. The Six of Cups, really? Really? So anyway, the Mystic Mondays, I don't think I'm going to try to, I don't know. If somebody really wanted it, that'd be fine. But the cardstock is not wonderful. The edges are already starting to chip. And anytime I touch it, it seems like I get some sort of scratch on the cards. And I can't tell if that reads on the camera, but so yeah, I'm not really thrilled with the Mystic Mondays deck. Next we have the Renaissance Tarot by Brian Williams. This is a pip deck, and it is based on Greek mythology. This deck is beautiful, and I actually have a vintage copy that was printed in Switzerland as opposed to the newer copies that are printed, I don't know, Italy or China or someplace. So the cardstock is really nice. As you can see, here's like the Five of Wands, and this little scene that's also playing out in the Five of Wands has to do with the story in Greek mythology that the Wands goes along with, which I cannot remember off the top of my head, because he used, for the majors, he used a different archetype from Greek mythology for each of the majors, and then for the minors, he has a Greek mythology story that follows through the suits, very similar to the Mythic Tarot, but not as well, not as detailed in its illustration. It's more pips with an occasional, hey, here's some extra people in it. And, you know, they're all naked, so you have no idea who they are or what they're doing. This deck is absolutely gorgeous to look at. It is beautiful. This gold isn't like a Lo Scarabeo gilded deck, but it is a bit shinier and is just beautiful. But I can't read with this deck. I just can't read with it. Which is such a shame, because I just think it's so gorgeous. I do also have, you can see this big book that's a guide to the Renaissance Tarot. It goes into great detail about the history of a bit of the history of tarot, and a history of some Greek mythology, and it has like 5 or 6 pages on each of the major arcana. So like here's the Fool, we start here, that's his picture, and then he's got these thumbnail redrawings of other historical decks and the Fool in those decks, and he talks about that. He talks about, this is really a very good book, although it is very academic. The guy, I think, has a PhD, and he writes like a PhD. So it's all very academic. If you like Robert Place, you'd probably like this. But then he talks about the Shakespeare's Fools and Divine Buffoons, Dionysus, Bacchus. We have a lot of quotes from Shakespeare throughout this book, and you know, we're still talking about the Fool. And what we're talking about here is the archetype of the Fool. We're not talking about, you know, the divinatory meaning of the card. And then way over here we have one paragraph about the divinatory meaning and then the reverse meaning. And then we move on to the Magician. And it does that through all of the majors. So most of the book is about the major arcana. Then we do move into the minors, and there's a little introduction to the minors, and then there'll be a page about the suit, and then just a little bit about each of the cards in the suit. And I do apologize if you can hear that noise in the background. I'm trying to do laundry at the same time. So this is a great book and a great system. I just don't think it's for me. And it's so pretty. It's just so pretty. He does reverse the elemental associations with wands and swords, like we see frequently. It's the most frequent reversal to see wands as air and swords as fire. I also used the Artist's Inner Vision Tarot in February. I really, really like this deck. It's a collaborative deck, and you can tell that they're different artists who worked on it. I mean, look, that's very different. But I don't know, there's something that unites it. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure exactly how many artists there were. It wasn't like there was one separate artist for each card, but I think each artist did 3 or 4 cards or something like that. And I love this deck, and I get really intuitive things from this deck. When I got it, I thought it was out of print, and I think it was just out of stock, because it appears to be back up in their Etsy shop. So if you are looking for the Artist's Inner Vision, you should be able to go back to Etsy and get it. But I do love, love, love this deck. I can sit and look at one of those cards and just, I can always find something in one of these cards that says something to me. And I do also love the book because it talks about, like, if you want to look for the Four of Wands in a movie, go look at Four Weddings and a Funeral, Betsy's Wedding, Father of the Bride, Bachelor Party, House Party, etc. If you want to go find the archetype of the Five of Wands, go look at Misery. So it's been out for a while. So the movies that they recommend to see in this guidebook, the great thing about that is they're all either on Netflix or Amazon or someplace like that where you should be able to get them for free. Okay, and then there's one deck that I left out of last month's roundup, the deck that I used for my weekly readings. That is also an Etsy deck. I've just got in this little white box. This is the Distant Past Tarot. And it's a fine arts collage deck that very much follows the Rider-Waite tradition, although it has, you can see, softened up some of the more difficult cards because she created it for her daughter, which is completely understandable. And I just love this one. I mean, you know, I have the Touchstone Tarot by Cat Black and I have the Golden Tarot by Cat Black. But for some reason, if I want to use a fine arts collage deck, this is the deck that I'm going to pull out to use. And this is the woman who made me buy the deck because I saw that Queen of Wands and I went, I have to have that. And I love the skies and the background, the blues. So yes, I used this deck for my weekly readings all through January, but forgot to mention it in my January video. So there you have it, my February decks. For my February decks, I think most of them are staying in the keep pile. So I think that's great. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.